Is running a little late. We'll go ahead and get our meeting started. I have 7:30. Good morning. Guess we can start with some introductions since I do see some new faces out in the audience this morning. We'll start with
Councilman Derek Spicer, 4th Ward City Council.
Scott Spencer, Councilman, 3rd Ward.
Jack Deacon, 1st Ward.
Mike Lester, Ward 2.
Matt Morash, Public Works Director.
Ian Joslog, Public Works Admin.
Whit Smith, Public Works.
David Bangy, City Engineer. Eric Seaman, Wastewater Division.
Jerry Stagman, Transit.
Randy Wright, 4th Ward. Dow Fontaine, City Staff. I'm Moment, City Attorney. Keith Smith, Planning and Protective Services Director.
Rachel Sinzi, Neighborhood Services Supervisor. Molly Ryan, the Public Information Coordinator.
Dave Helmick, City Staff.
First order of business, we have the approval of the March 14, 2024 committee meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next, we have citizens' opportunity to address the council committee on stormwater or other public works issues. Do anybody signed up or wish to speak this morning? Yes, ma'am. Please come to the podium and state your name.
I'm Holly Stitt. I'm owner of Stitt Berry City, and I'm talking on the RFP for Capitol Avenue.
Okay.
And I just wanted to bring forth a couple of things that I feel with this RFP. We went through a pretty extensive thing when this all came up at City Council in 2022, and people put forth money as an escrow to save the buildings that are out there. And that money has been sitting in escrow since they put it in there over a year. And now we're going out to RFP to anybody who hasn't put money in to save these buildings without even giving them a first right of refusal, without giving them a chance, without a quantification on the bid process. And allowing a demolition on the process, and these people put forth money to stop it from being demolished. So I don't think we are doing our people any justice by doing what we're doing with this RFP. I think it needs to be really thought through how it's being done, what kind of quantifications there are, and what are these people who have actually invested in the fact that they wanted to fix these buildings getting a first chance of being able to do that before it's a public thing. I believe that was the intention of this plan, and somehow that has gotten a little bit lost somewhere. On top of it, there's been a lot of talk about the overlay, and I want to bring some history about the overlay to here, because I think you guys are not aware of the history of that overlay that's over on Capitol Avenue. We put that overlay in place because of the fact of this very reason. We knew these buildings were going to be, some of them demolished, some of them repaired, some of them are everything. And the property owners from the 400 block to the 700 block of Capitol Avenue, as well as Jackson Street and Marshall Street, met with the city on a regular basis for probably close to 2 years to develop this overlay to protect our investment in Capitol Avenue. I've invested over millions into Capitol Avenue on buildings down there, and to be able to have them taken away and whatever put in there, and everybody talks about the overlay being restrictive. We made it non-restrictive. It just needs to fit in with the neighborhood. It's pretty easy to comply. Trust me, I'm rehabbing a couple of buildings down there now. It's not more expensive. It's more expensive than a cheap stick house, yes, but it's not more expensive than building a quality building. So there's all of the reasons out there that I keep hearing in all of the meetings. You need to talk to the property owners down there, because we're the ones who really wanted it there and in place. It is not a bad thing. It's a thing to keep that avenue being the integrity, or what it is right now, in a way, even with new buildings and new things. And I hear so many times that it was forced on us, that we can't do anything, or we can't do, and the reason these buildings weren't fixed is because of that overlay, and that is not the case. The reason those figures weren't fixed is because the city didn't put forth the money in the beginning to take them by eminent domain until they were too far gone to save. So, it goes back on that 400 block. But there are people putting money into that, the people doing Ivy Terrace, the camp eaters, everybody to fix up Capitol Avenue. And I think you really need to have them in your conversations before making decisions on what's happening down there.
Any questions? Ryan, could you address some of Mrs. Stitt's comments of dollars in escrow that are?
Yeah, sure. So, when the call for interested parties process was set forth, one thing that we made very clear is that what the process was to identify people who potentially would be interested in restoring the buildings. What we tried to make very clear, and I had many conversations with people that did actually end up signing the agreement and escrow down, is that this would not create any preference or right of first refusal for those people. That was a very important portion of this program, and I believe was even written into the contract. I'd have to take a look at the exact contract. But I can unequivocally say it was clearly communicated that this would not create any type of preference. As part of the original plan, the city was interested in hearing all proposals. So that's my take on it as a staff member that kind of created and ran this program and answered all the questions with the public grant conversations. Every single person that submitted the escrow, and I try to make it very clear, this does not put you in the front of the line. What this does is prevents the city from tearing down this building right now. That was the function of the program, is to figure out, just instead of speculating as to whether or not there would be people that would be interested and willing to tear down or to restore the buildings. It was a fact-finding exercise, and the escrow was to essentially make people make a little investment as a sign of good faith that if the city were to not tear down the property, then acquire the property, that then we would have buyers on the other end. We would have someone who would be interested in purchasing the building in its deteriorated state. So that's kind of how the program ran back in late 2022, and that's the information that I try to convey to everyone that submitted escrows.
And currently, when those folks put in dollars, calling it an escrow account, and the property they didn't obtain the property, then those dollars were returned?
Yes.
So,
They get returned, yes, unless they don't put a proposal in. But again, the RFP has no quantification. This is what we think is the best thing, which allows for demolition or allows for other things. And these people put forth their money to stop that building from being demolished, So not only is there not a quantification to give them a fair shot or anything like that, they put their money and let it sit over here without interest, without anything, to save that building, and then you're allowing it to be demolished or gone to somewhere else without that consideration. And that's, I read the resolution, that's how it got written. That was not it was not the conversations we had, but it's how it's written. I cannot dispute that. What I can ask is that you take into consideration these people who have let their money sit in an escrow account with the city for over a year to save these buildings and make it fair, or at least give them a fair shot, and not have some developer come in and says, I want to do the whole block and create this whole thing and take everything down, which is what I feel has been the thought process from the beginning. But I mean, you really, it's very important. And a lot of those people couldn't be here today, so I'm kind of speaking on their behalf, but I'm also speaking on the overlay behalf, because removing the overlay, and maybe there is a little few modifications I think do need to happen to the overlay over time, but I don't think it should be removed for whatever. It was there for this reason alone, is with our property, all of us.
Yeah, so I have the agreement that was signed here, so I just kind of wanted to give some of the excerpts here. So under general provisions in the agreement, it says entering into this agreement with the city does not create any developmental rights or special rights of access for the interested party in the subject property. The interested party acknowledges that execution of a bid guarantee agreement is not a prerequisite to submitting a redevelopment plan for the subject property. Parties other than interested party may submit competing redevelopment plans for the subject property. The city council may award development rights to the subject property to any party submitting a redevelopment plan that the city determines is in the best interest of the city. Interested parties shall not, by execution of this agreement, enjoy any advantage or special consideration in the city council's evaluation of redevelopment plans submitted for the city for the subject property.
Once those accounts have been established, put in escrow, and there's been a difference of approach or selection, if you will, and those folks didn't get pursued to make that development, is those dollars immediately returned then? Do we have any dollars in escrow still waiting to be made, to be selected of potential developers?
Yes, I believe there were 4 agreements in escrows.
Still currently.
Still current. So 4 on 3 different properties.
And I'm not disputing the contract, I'm not disputing what it is. What I'm asking is that there needs to be some sort of quantification, and not just we like this better, to give them a fair shot because they went forth in this.
I think from the perspective, or just as a single individual on the council, heard those development plans or potential development plans. The big thing for us at that time was the actual feasibility of accomplishment of being able to start to finish of the development, and making sure that there was a secured financial plan in place to make sure that these projects could be start to finish.
Right.
And
And that's been that way from the beginning, even when the housing authority had it. I mean, we don't want them sitting like they are now. I don't think anybody wants that. I think we're all tired of looking at that, but the fact that, again, I'm just saying that there is a consideration here to be for these people who actually have let their money not be used to save these buildings. There's a passion there that I think needs to be recognized, and at least come up with some sort of quantification and a careful consideration against demolition, and then again, the overlay.
And I just quickly remind us that there was a third independent party that went in and
Did structural assessments
did
before.
structural assessments, and based on their recommendations report, that helped kind of guide the movement, if you will, of the council.
Correct. Yeah.
Councilman Lester, you have.
Just clarification, what are the 3 properties? I know one is 401 and the other one 429.
The third one is 113 Adams.
And then there's one right behind 401 on, oh, that's Adams. And then, isn't there one behind the funeral home?
No.
Ones that are left standing.
Thank you for coming this morning. Any other public comment this morning? Nothing, right? Or do you want to wait till new business on? Okay. All right, we'll move to new business. Item A, JC Memorial Airport Control Tower funding update. Mr. Smith.
Yes, as the committee is aware, staff has been working on funding for a new control tower for our airport for a number of years. And I believe we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. Today I'm asking, we are asking as staff permission to go, concurrence to go ahead and seek bids for the replacement of the tower. And I'll explain why we're making that request. Thanks to the work of Representative Luchtemeier and his great staff, we've secured previously a $3.4 million appropriation that will come through the FAA that was done a year or two ago. Most recently, just within the last couple of months, we've received another $3 million toward this project from the work of Congressman Luchtemeier. Additionally, we were notified that we received a $1.3 million grant, which is a 100% grant, no match required, that is coming from the bipartisan infrastructure law that is dedicated to airports with contract towers. So when you add all those numbers up, that's about 3.4 million, 3.7 million, get my math right. Our total project estimate right now is between 10 and 11 million. So obviously we're still a little short, and we do require a match. MoDOT has told us that they're willing to split that local match with us, and currently we have $500,000 in sales tax that has been dedicated to grant matching at the airport. So again, when you kind of do some more math, that's about 8.7 million. The FAA has also told us that we were looking at phasing our construction, go ahead and beginning, and trying to figure out what we could build for the monies we have, and then continue to seek funds. But the FAA has asked us to go ahead and bid the full project with the idea that they believe and that we will compete well for what is known as discretionary grant funds for the remainder of the project. So our consultant has completed plans, and we're ready to put this on the street for bid. We technically do not have the funds in our account, which is what we would typically do before we bid out a project. But the FAA works a little differently. They will not issue a grant agreement to us until we have hard bid numbers. So it's a chicken or the egg kind of issue. So again, our request today of the committee is your concurrence to allow staff to move forward with bidding the project, with the understanding, of course, that we're not obligated unless all these grant funds actually do come forward.
Councilman Schwartz, as with on the Airport Advisory Committee, try to take your lead on this.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we need to move forward, certainly. Yeah, some of
I'll
it,
second.
yeah.
All right.
Can you repeat that? Who?
Council.
Second.
And second was Councilman Spicer. We'll do a roll call vote on that. Unless there's any further discussion. Pretty simple. Staff or?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilman Schwartz.
Greg, what do you think we'll have to pay out our portion of the match?
We expect that to be
What fiscal year?
approximately 500,000.
No, but what fiscal year?
What fiscal year?
Or is it gonna push into the next one?
We're hopeful that we would be under construction yet this fiscal year, but I hesitate to say that we will. With the FAA, things take time, and so I think it's extremely possible that we would be in next fiscal year before we get construction underway.
So under Prompt Payment Act, it's 30-day submissions. So essentially, as soon as we get under construction is when we'll be obligated to make payments. So it's not like we can hold on to it to the end of the project and pay it out. It's once construction starts, then we're going to have progress payments that we're going to be allowed to make.
Feds like their money.
Exactly.
And those funds have been earmarked and specified?
They're all capital improvement sales tax, and the grant funds are earmarked for Jefferson City for this particular project.
Questions? We'll roll call vote on this.
Deacon.
Aye.
Lester.
Aye.
Spicer.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Spencer.
Aye. Okay, item B, outdated software-related garage management. Yeah, please feel free. Yeah.
I thought I was supposed to be here to answer questions, but I guess I'll just come out and say that the parking server was purchased prior to August of 2011 and is still in use at this time. It basically went out of hardware support in approximately 2016. So we feel that it needs to be replaced. Any questions that you have other than that, or?
Again, I guess my reluctance on some of this is without knowing you support the parking garage slash conference center slash hotel concept. I guess my question is, with whatever we replace with this software, that it's portal as far as in being able to use with whatever setup.
I don't know anything about the peripheral side of it. Basically, all we provide is the server side of it and network connectivity to all the peripherals. Anything on outside of that is outside the IT purvey, so I can't answer that question. I would have to defer that to Matt.
So, we've talked about this a couple times, so, IT's been kind of after us, hey, you got to get this replaced, and that's why we said, well, maybe we don't replace it, we could just go with the different technology that's web-based, so we don't have to have this device. Security issue is one of the big issues, and it's unsupported, so.
Now, basically, from our stance, is the server's so old that anytime we may have to reboot it, it may not come back up. And at that point,
causes problems.
Services is.
We realize there's that period currently versus when something else may occur. Could be fairly quickly, could be yet a couple years, I don't know. So, we're gonna have to have a solution, I guess, in between the two. And, our probably recommendation is on the subscription service, you wouldn't have to keep renewing it. Once you got into the subscription, you could, stop it at some point that way instead of, you could buy a new server too, which seems, in my mind, which I'm not the IT people, but it seems like that would be less desirable because you have to buy the whole server. And then you have it.
In the packet, do we have any kind of cost estimation on what we're looking at?
Well, the server itself is not a huge part of the number, but it actually would require a change of hardware at the garage. And so, you're talking in the range of $80,000 is the last estimate we had, which was a year or two ago, so I'm sure it's higher than that now.
What was our subscription service?
All in, we'd be about the same, but we'd be using it not just in the garage, but in all our parking lots and in full operation.
Do we have any cost analysis on this? This is my main concern.
Well, we could always bring back a much more detail. Obviously, there's nothing right in here, but I think IT was asking us again, so we said, why don't you come and explain maybe you have better information or a better way of explaining it than I do. I see a black box probably is all I see when I say server.
And I think from our perspective, we just don't want to waste dollars on something that will be totally different possibly with the new structure.
Right, yeah, we've been trying to get the upgrade done for about 3 years now, and keeps getting tabled due to, what we're looking at down the road. Our point on it, just like we keep saying, is there's no backup plan for it. If it dies, the parking garage is down. As far as charging.
It's also a security issue, right, as Richard explained to me. Do you know?
I'm not liberty to go into network vulnerabilities, so.
We understand.
All right.
Well, and probably what we ought to do is work with Brian, get a more detailed proposal together that everybody probably can live with and come back. But we just want to keep it in your forefront of your mind that this is an issue and we need to get on with it probably. I think that's probably the best solution. We can work with the city administrator to come back with a firm proposal. Is that satisfactory?
Yes, we definitely like more information. So. All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Item C, reappropriation of revenue received from SRF reimbursement. Mr. Seaman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just an update on the loan in the biosolids project. That should be ready to go for Monday night. We do have some good news with respect to interest rate. They quoted us last night about 1.7% for the 20-year life of the loan. What we would ask is, this is a reimbursement loan. So what we would like to do, our first drawdown is going to be approximately $1.2 million. We would like to request to reappropriate that money to go for repair and replacement of the sewer projects that we're currently working on. Have money accessible now rather than November 1st for the new fiscal year. And we have some confidence in doing this. We don't need to replenish our funds. Our fund balance is calculated about $4 million, so we cover all of our bond covenants and things like that. And I guess in doing this, we thought we'd bring it to the committee, but we wouldn't actually ask for it to be on the council meeting until we get the drawdown and it's in the bank, and then we would bring that to the council meeting.
So it'll be a couple months probably from now.
Yeah.
Just tell you up front. And there's the other part of that is, so finally we got all the approvals and everything from Missouri DNR for this SRF loan. So that's a go for Monday at that first council meeting. There's still a lot of substitution and things that go on with that. And I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but they put in the final interest rate and I think there's another little language tweak by DNR just I think yesterday. And so we have to substitute that. I don't know if it made the packet or not. It did not, Ryan's saying. So anyway, there'll be some substituting going on, but that's pretty typical of this kind of stuff. We just haven't done it in a long time. So,
any questions or comments?
Yeah, just a programming note on today's agenda. So we were informed last night about 4:30 that there was going to be some additional changes. So the agenda that goes out today will not have the correct substitute. We will do an amended agenda tomorrow, probably tomorrow afternoon, with the correct substitute once DNR gets everything that they need. But just kind of want to give you a heads up that the document that is marked substitute today is not the correct document. The correct document will come out tomorrow.
Being with that, then I'm not really comfortable with us making any kind of recommendation today, and we'll just table that.
it's more informative, yeah.
It's more informative. Thank you. Item D, National League of Cities Service Line Warranty Program. Mr. Seaman.
So in February, we had discussed that American Water Resources has an insurance program for water sewer line services. And Mr. Crane was aware of another program, and he asked us to investigate National League of Cities, and that's available through the city's membership in Missouri Municipal League. So the insurance policy does look very favorable. It appears to be less than American Water Resources, and it has better coverage. So I guess they provide us with a bunch of information. So they actually will send out flyers and educate property owners of what they're responsible for. They do cover, so if someone inside town has an on-site septic system or a water well, they will actually cover the service lines with that too. So that's unique. Then The local plumbers that they work with, they are licensed. They also ask them to fill out information certifying that their employees have a good background check, safety and that sort of thing. So they, all their marketing is approved by the city before it goes out. So say Molly would have the opportunity to review all their information before it goes to the public. And then nationwide, they're very big. They're, let's see, about 1,000 municipalities nationwide. In Missouri, they've got over 40 municipalities that are involved. It's Kansas City and Joplin and Kirksville and Mobile. So what they ask, the National League of Cities actually asked for permission to work in your community. So I've included the marketing agreement that they have. That's and I've stamped drafted over it. Legal hasn't had a chance to look at it. So that would be what they would ask for us to execute. And then if it was something the city wanted to go forward with, they offer a 10% licensing fee to the city. And so what we had discussed among staff is that perhaps we just offer that discount to the folks who do want to sign up for the insurance.
This kind of stems from, our discussions about people with lateral lines going down the right of way and long and everything. So we haven't had a program where we really advertise this. I guess you can still sign up with American if you wanted to, or if you already are. But, if this were to go out in a mailer, it kind of look city supported. So we want to make sure everybody's before it goes out.
Mr. Crane, you have any comments on this at all?
No, other than, this is a program, Mobile is on there, we did run this, or had this joint venture. There's a lot of citizens that don't realize how long their lateral lines are and where they go, especially in the older parts of town. So, even a benefit of maybe a $5 to $10 per month insurance, for when that line might have a problem, is a little bit easier to afford than $3,000 to $5,000 bill that shows up if you've had damage. So it's just another opportunity for citizens to figure out another way to insure their property or something that's underground that doesn't really have coverage.
Any other questions? Obviously, we give the due diligence for law to take a look, but I think there's, at least from my perspective, there's a lot of interest in pushing this out to the community as an option. So
It sounds good. I just we certainly want to be sure that it's presented so that it's not seen as the city's service.
absolutely. Okay. All right.
So if we move forward, who signs the agreement? Does the council sign it, or can Mr. Crane?
Take a look at the agreement.
It may have to go to the council. I'm not aware.
And it can come back here too, but I really don't, I'm not comfortable moving forward until our legal department has an opportunity to put its eyes on it as well. All right, Councilman Wright.
Yes. You all have copies of.
Yes, Randy,
Yes, they all have copies. Okay, all right. Yeah, I appreciate you indulging me on this project. I just wanted to have the opportunity to get it in front of you and talk to you about it. This is the Northwood Drive Neighborhood Improvement Program petition that I brought forward for my neighborhood. My neighborhood, for those that don't know, I'll just remind you, this neighborhood was brought into the city through annexation, I think on or around 2008 timeframe. This particular road is a private road, and so it just kind of got, stuck inside the city as a private road, unpaved road. And so what you have before here is a petition to get the road paved, and I've worked with Mr. Bangy extensively on getting this put together and designed. And I think that Mr. Bangy, I visited with him right before the meeting. He said possibly he could provide, a rough estimate of what the asphalt would be to do this. So do you have that figure, Mr. Bangy?
Right, so yesterday, after we received the petition, I just did a real quick calculation just, to figure out what it would cost to just lay asphalt on this. No grading, no dirt work, nothing else except but for the asphalt. And that number was right at $85,000 just for the asphalt cost. So certainly there would be other costs associated with the project.
So basically, this is a petition project. It's in the code of what citizens have to do to petition the council for a project, and I think it's in its area has to be 75% of them sign up. Yes, they want to participate. They pay a frontage foot fee, whatever it is.
$27. Yep.
I think it's being adjusted a little bit right now, but roughly $27 a front foot of property. And from that, if they do petition that, we'll come up with a much better estimate. I think there's a couple street lights in here. And so what they're asking is that they upgrade the road. They pay a part of it through this frontage foot fee. The city council would have to accept the petition and then budget for it before it's done. So there's a process here. And once if that all gets accomplished, then the city staff would bid the project, start collecting the fees. There's some provisions for upfront payment, I believe, as I recall. We haven't done one of these in quite a while.
Right. So the code would require that 75% of the owners pay the fee prior to the contract being awarded, and then anyone who doesn't prepay would then be charged an additional 25%. And then that would be tax billed against their property.
Yeah, so there's that aspect. So anyway, we'd have to go through it a little bit more detail, but the first hurdle sounds like you've gotten 75% of the neighborhood said, yes, I want to do this, pay up front, apparently.
Right.
And so that's the first hurdle. So now we would take this, do a better estimate of all what it needed. We're not anticipating curb and gutter, sidewalk, none of that. Really pushes the project cost up, and it could, in this case, have right-of-way implications, all kinds of stuff.
But it would be a county road, bring it up to county road standard?
We would bring it up to a standard that we could then start maintaining.
Right. Yeah, and as long as I've lived there, I've got an individual that lives with me, legally blind, also has obesity issues as well. It's signed up for Handy Wheels, but Handy Wheels won't come to our house because of the current condition of what we've got here. So he's not able to access city services that he's entitled to because of the situation here. So just want to throw that in there as well, because that has been an issue. So what I recommend is that you today just send it back to staff so they can fully develop the plan, that kind of thing, and then bring it back to next month's meeting for full consideration. So
Is that
once we figure out the budget,
right,
it's kind of the full council would have to accept it, of course.
Right.
And so but we can try to figure out a pretty good budget before we do a lot of design into it, make sure the council will accept enough that we feel comfortable with the numbers. And the number's not final until it's bid, of course.
Right.
And typically, I think in the past, these went through the budget process through the summer. When we put the budget together, we'll put it in a budget, probably the engineering budget that says, hey, we have this project, and if the council wants to accept it through that process and fund it.
Any questions?
So So there's some owners who have agreed but haven't signed yet, or is that?
Well, the last three line items there are all of the property there to the west. I believe that would be that South African Volunteer Enterprise. That's a not-for-profit, but is owned by the Crane family. Bruce Crane and Juliana Crane are the ones that actually own that. And my understanding from talking to Mr. Bangy is that those could be excluded because those are all technically Rock Ridge addresses. And speaking with Mr. Crane, he indicated he was fine with having no access to this road whatsoever.
I don't think we typically, the council, I guess, could exclude him, but I think the process, because he would get a road frontage, he would have to pay. If he doesn't want to pay, it could go on his tax bill, but yeah, you would normally charge that property owner because it does front their property and improves their value.
But I think that, I would probably be looking for, the council to accept them from it because, their access is on Rock Ridge Road. He's fine with there being no access and maybe putting in the agreement if anybody ever wanted to redevelop it in the future or whatever, they'd have to pay the city or something of that nature. Yeah. Does that answer your question? The only other one was the Bowmans. They at this point have not signed. Yeah. So.
Okay, I just mentioned it because it looks from this like 60%.
Right. We're just looking at at the residents on Northwood here. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a tentative process that staff can work.
You'll have to go through it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to item 5, other old business. Item A, East Capitol Avenue, RFP. Mr. Molman.
Thank you. So yesterday, I distributed to the council committee by email a revised draft RFP that includes both input from JC Rep and then some technical changes that were made by additional staff, particularly the purchasing division. The substance of the RFP is not really all that different than what was presented to the committee last month. So I would categorize most of the changes as technical in nature. There are some dates in there. Mostly that was an exercise to just kind of make sure that it lays out on a calendar in an appropriate way. The dates aren't, the dates contemplate getting it out tomorrow, so that's not going to happen. But mostly the exercise was to make sure that when you actually put it on the calendar, it makes sense. So what we're looking at is a 6-week open on that. JC Rep helped out with that number between city staff and the folks over at JC Rep. We think that's a reasonable amount of time, quick enough that the project doesn't languish, but also enough time that someone who's serious in the project, has the time to put together a comprehensive plan. So like I said, it's really not much different than what the committee saw last month, so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Lester.
It does seem to me that the ones that the escrow money has been put on, that somehow that should be indicated somehow that there has been expressed interest and intent by a party to put in a bid to restore those properties, just so that's known within the bid. And I do take what's been said here today seriously, and I think certainly as part of our deliberations, because Jefferson City has such a historic character, and East Capitol Avenue in this area is such an important part of that. In our deliberations, when we get around to it on the council, that certainly that should be a major consideration. Any proposals we would get.
Is that a slight modification or?
So certainly we could, put a paragraph in there that says, the city ran through this process and received, whatever we called it, bid guarantee proposal agreement, maybe include a draft copy of the agreement that was signed as an attachment so people can kind of see, here's the activity that's already happened. That's a fairly easy change if that's what the committee wants to direct.
I think this is an action item today that we would like to endorse.
Yeah, so if the committee moves this on, it will appear on Monday's agenda as a resolution. So city code requires that the city council declare property surplus and approve of the method of disposition for sales of real estate.
Just real quick, as it relates to the previous process that the address escapes me at the moment, but one of the buildings that is currently being rehabbed, that was done with an exterior process called drive-in. That is not a process back in that time period. Did that meet the requirements of the capital overlay? And how did that? You're saying
Well,
yes?
they got a building permit, so I assume that it does.
I would anticipate that.
So there is some flexibility there. Because like I said, that is not a true time period recognized exterior application finish. That is using a lot of modern synthetic materials that would not have been available during that time period. So, all right. Chair would entertain a motion to move this on as a recommendation.
So just for a point of clarification, the recommendation of Mr. Lester, is that included within the motion, or so this is staff's recommended RFP kind of format. If the committee wants to make any modifications to it, staff would like clear direction to do so.
Or your motion?
I would like it to be just for full disclosure that there has been expressed interest and intent by developers to put these structures. All developers know.
And it that doesn't affect the spirit of intent of giving preference. That would be my
right. So what my intention would be is to attach a draft copy. All these agreements were the exact same. It was a form, and so without having any particular signer's agreement, we can say this is what the agreement said. So that way, developers can take a look. Okay, this is what the city signed. This is what the people that put down the escrow signed. And so that way there's kind of full transparency as to here's the action that has already been affected on these properties. That's the way
You comfortable with that?
Yeah, just so that it identifies certain properties that have that interest and intent already. That's already there.
And that you got kind of the genesis of
Yeah, I
the
do.
motion.
I do, yeah.
You want her to repeat that, or?
I got it.
Okay, as long as you have it, that's the main purpose here. So, okay. All right, so we have a motion to move this proposal forward with the recommended changes from this body. Roll call, please.
Deacon?
Aye.
Lester?
Aye.
Spicer?
Aye.
Schwartz? Spencer?
Aye. Okay, thank you very much. Item B, Rolling Hills Speed Control Update. Mr. Bangy.
Yes, thank you so much. So we've had conversations about Rolling Hills now for several months. And the last time we were here at the committee, we were asked as a staff to go reach back out to the public to see how they would react to the proposal that was brought forth to add a center stripe and sort of edge parking lot lines along the edges of the road to sort of make that look visually narrower as a solution to the traffic speed issue. So we had sent out a number of letters and gotten some responses. I think there were some included in the packet. Generally speaking, we actually had a public meeting as well. Generally speaking, the folks who responded seemed to receive that favorably. There were some who perhaps expressed some thought that it wasn't enough. But otherwise, in terms of its application, there wasn't anyone who voiced any opposition to it. In that letter, we also sort of broached the idea of there being a sidewalk that goes along the street. And again, general consensus was that that was a good idea. There were some folks who were concerned that a sidewalk would eat too much into the front yards of the properties along the road. The right-of-way is 60 feet wide there, and so ultimately the sidewalk could fit within the existing right-of-way without too much ado, and wouldn't really be unlike many, many other places in the city. So we believe, we kind of left it open-ended in terms of which side of the street the sidewalk would go on in the letter, and then sort of requested people to let us know if they had any particular thoughts. No one really did, nothing definite, and so kind of reviewed by staff, we think that the eastern side of the road would probably be a better side, so that would be the side that the park is on, and then continue it down, and then perhaps create a crosswalk that would tie back into the sidewalk on the hospital side at the far end of that. So that's kind of what we're looking at now. And so we believe that if that sidewalk were to move forward, that we could fund that with the sales tax age sidewalk money. And I know we had a discussion last time because we were also talking about using some of that money for our TAP grant application match. And so we believe that both of those things can happen. And so the TAP grants that we were talking about were a side path along Southwest Boulevard. And kind of digging a little deeper into that, we had hoped to go further than what I think we can now. We intended actually to put a side path along the entirety of Southwest Boulevard. But now it looks like that's actually going to have to be basically just between Missouri Boulevard and Stadium at this point in time, just due to the cost. So there will be some resolutions that come forward from council at the next meeting about those TAP projects, but I just wanted to bring those up just to let you know that that's also coming out of that money, but certainly we'd have enough sidewalk money to do this on Rolling Hills if that's the decision to do that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve a funding plan for the sidewalk plan for Rolling Hills.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Just one point that, David did include it in those TAP grants just because he didn't think it's not going to score well probably. And so this would be a more straightforward avenue to get the sidewalk there.
I think we are very committed to getting those folks off the roadway when they're walking their dogs and stuff. All right, roll call, please.
Deacon?
Aye.
Lester?
Aye.
Spicer?
Aye.
Schwartz? Spitzer?
Aye. All right, moving on to item C, MSP project update. Mr. Helmick.
Thank you.
So I'm going to give a real quick update of the project we currently have going at the city-controlled portion of MSP. The first part of the project scope that we had was removal of brush, weeds, fallen trees, new growth trees under 12 inches, and then removal of trash, scrap, and other debris. So these are some before photos. The top one up here is what it used to look like at the state parking lot if you were standing there looking. As of now, this is what it looks like. We have uncovered all the bleachers that were there that are stone bleachers, all the seating areas where the spectators used to be. and have removed all of this. We have applied some mulch that was created by the grinding of the trees on site to help with some erosion controls in areas where we're having erosion. It is a little different than this because they have spread more mulch. They will be coming back to finish up the project once we get a few dry days and warm days, so they can apply chemical and then also do some more work on the finer tuning of it. But we have made major strides with the appearance and removing all that vegetation. This is another section. This is the back of the saddle tree factory right here going up towards the federal courthouse at the end of the Lafayette. Before that was all new growth trees and vegetation and brush. Most of that had grown since 2006, 2008, so it was very small diameter, clustered, a lot of debris, a lot of stuff underneath. The upper left photo there now shows it cleared, and this is all going to be basically green space when the project's done. So we've done quite a bit with the brush project, not 100% done, probably sitting about 95%, but we're waiting on the weather to cooperate, and that's what the holdup on that's been so far. Second part of that project is the saddle tree factory. This part of the project is the demolition of the dangerous building known as the saddle tree factory. As you can see, there's deterioration of the structure. It's got tornado damage. It's falling down on its own. So this is what it originally looked like. These areas here we actually added through the last change order that went to council and was approved. These are old debris piles from previous demolitions done by the state when the federal courthouse and other work was done on site. So once we're done with this, we'll have nice level lots. And then this here is up looking down from the Lafayette cul-de-sac. That saddle tree building, which is the yellow building in the back, is going to be removed. This pile of debris, which is all clean fill, is actually going to be leveled out into that slope. So standing up at Lafayette, you'll have a nice slope surface all the way down to grade and be able to have a clear view of the river there. And as of yesterday, they are actively working on site. There's some of the equipment's working on spreading the big fill piles so that we have nice level sites for redevelopment. And then they completed yesterday gutting the interior of the structure. They've removed all the trash materials that they don't want to get mixed up with the bricks, so it's easier as they go along. And actually started removing the accessory structures. So there used to be a small one-story here. There was another add-on on the back on the left side of the right photo there. And then starting today, they're dropping the big structure. That structure will take about a week to get down, and then it'll take 2 to 3 weeks to sort through, pull all the metal out, do all the grading. And then once the weather complies with us, they'll bring in topsoil, grass seed, straw, and we'll have a nice sloped surface from basically river grade down at the lower yard up to Lafayette to the cul-de-sac up there. So just a real quick update showing what's going on up there. As we speak, they started at 7:30 this morning on the actual demo of that building. It is an active demo site, so if anybody wants to view it, Lafayette cul-de-sac is about the only safe place that you can do it because that keeps you out of the area, but it is the area that they're starting with, so that's what we got going on up there. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
My question is, I know there was concern with the trees at the end of the cul-de-sac. They left some. Why? Because they're going to all grow in. I looked at it the other day. They're all going to grow in. It's going to, the view is going to be occluded. So why didn't they take them all down? I know people wanted it for aesthetic reasons, but I thought that was dumb as a post. Trees permanent growth.
So the project I'm working on is what was approved by council, and that's all I can say on that. So
should have taken them all out. You can't see the river now as soon as it's out.
Noted.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
With the guard tower down from the courthouse?
Yes.
Is that cleared away around that guard tower?
So and unfortunately the photo cuts it off. It's right about right here. So on the Lafayette side, you can see that wall in the guard tower. On the bottom side, it is cleared about 8 feet, 10 feet out. And then we hit where the federal courthouse fence and stuff is on the back half. So yes, it is cleared around it. When they come back to spray and cut vines and do that stuff when the weather, it'll open it up more even. But yes, it is accessible now. Yep.
To address Councilman Deacon's concern, is there a way that we could get a cost of that tree removal?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously we would change order, I assume, but. Councilman Schwartz?
Yeah, I don't really have a question. Honestly, I want to thank the mayor and the city council for finally getting this done. There is absolutely no reason why this should have taken 20 years to do. It's a failure of government. It is between this and Ramada is the two biggest failures of government I've ever seen in my life. And I just want to thank you all for getting going. Thank the mayor for putting the pedal to the metal and finally seeing some progress here, because it is an eyesore. We had a ton of money from FEMA after the tornado, and this should have been taken care of, and I appreciate it.
I would concur. If that is a desire or a wish of this committee that we would look at.
One thing we're gonna have to look at is the bats that come back to Missouri after March 31st. Federally, there's some regulations there, so.
I mean, I just was trying to get a number, not to maybe immediately address it, but.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the contractor, and they're already familiar with the site. I'm sure they can get us a number relatively easy.
Signage and tell them to not come.
I'll go out there and wave flags and.
Vacancy signs.
Right, yeah.
For the bats.
So.
Detour.
Yep. Any other questions?
Any other questions? All right, before we go to reports, there was a couple other issues real quick that I wanted to discuss. I just want to thank Mr. Fontana for reaching out to some concerned citizens in the 3rd Ward about some recent flooding issues in Binder and Maryland Drive. Is there any opportunity that we could look at any kind of relief for those areas?
Yeah, right now, we're kind of going through and cataloging the flood, if you will, and we'll develop a map over the next month and kind of what occurred and just kind of give an update on that at the next meetings of the plan. And if there is something a project that needed to occur to help some of that, which more than likely it's a low probability, but we'd try to identify it during that and talk about it at the next meeting. So yeah, there's a lot important, I think, Don, they're wearing him out. He's getting a lot of calls. I was out on vacation, everybody knows probably, but so I didn't hear that much about it firsthand, but apparently quite a flood, and not just isolated in certain areas. There's a pretty big swath of town that did flood.
I think there's a communication component to this, because I think a lot of the residents feel that is the city's responsibility, and if we could be more clear in their understanding of what is city's responsibility, flood control, and what is not. And obviously there's, back in the day when those houses were built, it was a secondary thought, if any thought at all. So maybe once you kind of get your data collection of that event, that we can formulate a communication plan of how we can address that to those areas.
Right, and Don, like I said, he's good about meeting with everybody individually, and each one's almost a separate issue, or maybe a slightly different problem, so it does take a lot of time out of his schedule to meet with each person, figure out what the issue was, and try to help them.
And maybe that's not what we do, try to meet with each person, but we set up a time for folks to come here to where we could.
Right, that's what we've done in the past. I can't remember if you're on the council or not. We spent some time kind of looking at the flood, talking about how much water it was, what kind of flood we had, if we can find some good rainfall data, kind of just generally going through it, and then invite people to that meeting.
And then the other item I had was any kind of update on lighting on Creek Trail.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that. You asked me about that. I did, I talked to actually Todd Logan yesterday about it. That light has been installed at the Creek Trail in Edgewood there, so it's a commercial light. There never was a light there. New arm, pretty good light, I guess. I haven't seen it at night, but apparently, according to Todd, we did a good job there.
Okay.
With Ameren, of course.
Yes. Good.
I believe the crosswalks got completed. I haven't walked them, but thank you for getting those completed in Lafayette and in Southwest.
Yeah, so the actual pavement is complete on Lafayette Street. We're still awaiting Meyer Electric to be able to install the actual flashing pedestrian signals. So those will be coming perhaps as early as next week. We are still in the midst of working on the Southwest, as folks who would like to drive through there probably know. We do have, the plan had been for us to maintain at least one lane of traffic through that intersection. We have come across an issue with a sanitary sewer manhole that's there. Unfortunately, it's a very deep manhole, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15.5 feet deep. And so it needs to be replaced because part of it is failing and broken. So unfortunately, starting on Monday, we're going to need to close Southwest Boulevard entirely so that we can replace that manhole. And so that's not what we would like to have had done, but unfortunately there really isn't any other way of going about it at this point. So we'll do that. That will close the whole road perhaps for as much as 2.5 to 3 weeks in order to get that done. And then, but at that point in time, the crosswalk project will also be finished. So in some ways we're intensifying the pain, but shortening the duration. So, but just so everyone's aware that will be happening starting on Monday. So we look forward to that being complete.
Always paying with progress. So, all right, moving on, item 6 on the reports, project status update, Mr. Bainey.
Yeah, so we included the little diagram that we have been including the last several months. Some of those projects have moved forward slightly. Some of them we're still waiting to get to, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about any of those if you have them.
Questions? Okay. Seeing none. Item B, quarterly sales tax projects and project status.
Right, so that again is just kind of a different representation of what was kind of included in the previous report, but this includes some dollar amounts that we have expended in the past quarter. So those are in the second to last column are the new dollars that we have expended. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that as well.
So after today, we will be adding a little bit more information to the Rolling Hills sidewalk, because you already have it.
Right, it is on the list, and so yes, that will begin to move forward.
Okay. Item C, quarterly building permit and business license reports. Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you. So we've attached last quarter for business license applications, also our permit kind of summary here, so no real report. Basically the last year and a half or so of permits, nothing necessarily to note except for hopefully in the next 2 to 3 quarters. We hope to see that multifamily column expand a little bit with a few projects we're coming in, so we'll keep an eye on that. But hopefully that'll kick up our residential unit numbers for the year.
Right. And Ms. Senza, you're up. Quarterly neighborhood service grant updates.
I will note that I think the incorrect report was included in the packet. That was from last year. Last year was also April 11th. But I went ahead and put together a presentation on updates that we've made in the last quarter. Through our community development block grant, our entitlement CDBG, we have a program that works with nonprofits. So in exchange for the city using those funds to demolish, we enter into redevelopment agreements for housing replacement. So 1320 East Miller, we were able to demolish in the last quarter and enter into a redevelopment agreement with Habitat for Humanity. Another program that we offer through our CDBG is emergency home repair. And we really hope that one of the programs, we do a lot of sewer lateral repair. So recently in the 1200 block of West Main, We worked with Eric Seaman and his folks in Public Works as sewage running down the alley. And this was an instance of one of those old laterals. There was 3 houses connected to one lateral. So we were able to work with Public Works, work with the property owners, and auger out their lateral to go ahead and repair that for them. This program, all the CDBG programs are income-based. We do get those income limitations updated yearly by HUD. We recently had our incomes updated April 1st. So what you see up there is the current income limits for anybody that wants to participate in these programs. It is based on the number of persons in the household. So one person making $53,900 would qualify for these programs. So it does cover quite a bit of the city's population, and we're hoping by the emergency home repair and also some of the service line insurance programs like we discussed prior, that we can really cover a lot of folks with some of these programs. So if these situations do come up, then there's tools available for them to address that. Our state CDBG CV, so this is CARES Act funding that we received through the state, the Department of Economic Development, partnered with Cole County EMS to get $2 million to go to the EMS facility, which is kind of across the street. This is the status of the project there. We have received 5 reimbursement requests to date, so that project is moving and is anticipated to be completed in the fall of 24. This one. Also, under that same program, we have 101 Jackson for transformational housing. They did receive their authority to use grant funds, so you're going to start seeing a lot of activity at that property. They did receive $544,000 to rehab 101 Jackson, which was one of the the properties that we worked with the housing authority to receive back in. So we're hoping to get that one online. It's anticipated to have 5 units of transitional housing. Dave talked a lot about the the projects that were going into the community revitalization grant, currently with the brush removal and saddle tree factory demo. We are also going to include streetscaping on the build out of Chestnut, as well as additional connectivity nodes for the neighborhood. And that grant was $2.1 million. Some of the kind of smaller projects that we've been working on, but we're starting to see the results of, we are a member of the Mid-Missouri Solid Waste Management District. We received a $25,000 grant to repair our glass recycling bins. We've got the City Hall and the former Save-A-Lot parking lot bins have been completed. We currently have the Hyde Park bin in the shop getting repaired. And then we'll do the last bin that's currently located at Federal Recycling to get that repaired. There is going to be another phase. We are going to wrap the bins, and we're going to do an art contest with the local schools for recycling, and we're going to wrap them, and it kind of incorporates the educational component as well as the wrap provides longer term maintenance on the bin. Recently, so I have a map up there of all the solid waste districts that are across the state. The city recently hosted a training where I believe it was 5 of the other districts participated in our household hazardous waste program. We had a consultant come in to kind of teach us best practices on how we could better manage and divert some of our costs. The Mid-Missouri Solid Waste Management District has agreed to reimburse us 30% of the haul-away fees that we pay. We usually pay about $23,000 a year to dispose of household hazardous waste, so it's nice to enter into that partnership with them so they can help defray the costs. We also worked with Public Works and Bartlett and West and did submit a grant application through the Bridge Investment Program for the High Street Viaduct. We requested $16.3 million for that project, and we should hear some sort of response late spring, summer. That's really all that we've worked on in the quarter. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Still got a lot on your radar, don't you?
That's right. Thank you.
Appreciate all the work. Any other closing comments, questions? Yes, today. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm terribly sorry.
Oh, we gotta rewind the tape now.
So I write these things down so I don't forget them, and then I manage to forget to read my note. So on the East Capitol RFP, I would also appreciate authority to move ahead with RFPs for 611 Jefferson and 320 Miller. So 611 Jefferson is over in the Wienerberg area. It was acquired as part of the East Capitol acquisitions, but obviously is not part of East Capitol. And then 320 is actually just here on the backside of the City Hall parking lot. It's vacant. So the intent would be to also include those, and the City Council with authority to surplus those properties and then get them out through an RFP process that is similar in form to the East Capitol RFP. Obviously, they're single properties, so the RFP would reflect that. But just kind of wanted to get that in front of the committee. That our intention is to also move forward those and get those back into the hands of people that want to do something with them. We have interest expressed in both properties, so I think it'd be helpful to move forward. So apologies for not bringing that up under the.
So the intent is to be part of this RFP?
Not to be part of this RFP, it would be a separate RFP. It would look similar, to the RFP, but they would be separate RFPs since they are away from this project. I think it would be too confusing to include them as part of this RFP.
Okay, but to move forward with a separate RFP with those two. I would move forward with that.
Second.
Brian, what were those addresses again?
320 East Miller and 611 Jefferson.
Roll call on that, please.
Deacon?
Aye.
Lester?
Aye.
Spicer?
Aye.
Schwartz? Spencer?
Aye.
Apologies for not.
No problem. Glad we caught it. We did. All right, now we will entertain a motion to adjourn.